to Josie's Joyful Journey, where I show food preservation in a small kitchen. This is actually the start of a 3-video series where I will be making some freezer meals that I will be giving as a gift, and they're going to be in more small family size packaging. So we are going to start today with lasagna. I've got the water is just about to start boiling, and I'm going to heat up the stove for cooking up the ground beef, and let's get started. Got the lasagna noodles going right now, and they're actually almost done. They'll be done in about 2 minutes or so. And I've got some parchment paper over here off to the side. The packaging will say to cook it for about 10 minutes, but because we're doing this as a freezer meal, we don't want it to be too soft, so I'm going to go for 7 minutes just so that it maintains some of that firmness. So once I have that out, then I will go ahead and start working on the beef. Normally when I make lasagna for my own family, I just use the no-bake noodles, but for this I decided to just go ahead and do the full, gotta boil them, go through all the work. Just something in my mind said, oh, that'll work better for frozen lasagna. I don't know, to be honest. So it's just what I decided to do. And really the hardest part though of boiling lasagna noodles when you're in a small kitchen is finding where to put them where they don't stick together and they're not just laid out all over the place. So I have this little space on this side, and I put out some parchment paper. I did there in the back, I had to kind of put another piece of parchment paper on top to get the last of the noodles on there, but they all fit, so yay, winner. Okay, so for the meat sauce, now I chopped up a bunch of onions just because I'm going to have something else going as well. Yeah, I'm going to do that, by the way. Okay, get the onions going. Gotta have the beef ready to go. Okay, so I'm not going to take all of this garlic. I'm just going to put in probably about half of it. And as I've said before, with garlic, you only cook it until you can smell it. That's only about 30 seconds. And there we go. So I'm going to throw that beef in there. And I know beef is really expensive right now, so being able to do this is a treat. Normally I would wait until it's on sale, but that wasn't an option right now, just because of, well, it's a gift for someone. So I'm just going to kind of break it up into as smaller pieces as I can. And then I'll be right back when it's done. So it's basically done. I got the fat from it drained out, and then I put it back in here. Whatever works for you for draining it, just do that. I'm adding a little bit of spices. I got basil, oregano, and then some parsley. Just kind of throw those in there before I add the pasta sauce. This all goes so quickly right now. Now, if you like making your own sauce, go for it. I'm gonna get a little bit of water in here so that I can get the rest of this yumminess in there. So I put just a little bit of water, shake it up, and pour that in there. There we go. Okay. So now we are going to let this simmer. for a few minutes, and while this is going, we're gonna work on that cheese sauce. It's another day, yay! So one of the things with working in a small kitchen is that there's not enough room to have everything out at once when you're making something like lasagna. So you kind of go in stages. So the ricotta and the cheeses, those were left in the fridge. When I went to go look, the ricotta was nowhere to be found. I looked all through the fridge. So I had to go and get some this morning. I worked on something else yesterday. So I've got the ricotta, the other cheeses, and I have an egg. So we're going to plop the ricotta into the container along with that. And then I've got half a cup of Parmesan. Of course, the official recipe says to use half of it in this, but since when do we go strictly by those recipes, right? So you want to give this a nice thorough mixing. Get that egg all incorporated in there, and then if you want to add just a little more creaminess, throw a little bit of mozzarella in there. Just because it's there, we're here, you might as well add it in, right? Got that all nice and incorporated. Now, I got the meat sauce split in half since I'm making 2 of these. And I did add some spinach. What I like doing when I make lasagna is I'll get the package of the frozen chopped spinach, thaw it out. Now, when you're using spinach, you have to really thoroughly wring out that water from it. Otherwise, you will have really, liquidy lasagna, and you don't want that. But I do like what the spinach adds. So as you can see, I ended up doing this one, finishing this first one off camera. Had some technical difficulties, sorry about that. And also sorry about the lighting. It's that kind of time of day. So I mixed up another batch of the cheese. And I also wanted to point out that before you get going, you want to make sure that the lid has not just what it is, but the cooking directions. And in this case, because frozen lasagna can be a little tricky, I put instructions for thawed and for frozen. Just to make it a little easier, like I said before, this is a gift, so I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So you're gonna start out with putting just a bit of the beef mixture here on the bottom. Doesn't take much. Just enough to keep the noodles from sticking to the bottom. And really, lasagna is not rocket science. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's just plop the stuff in there, spread it out, doing it in layers. Does not have to be perfect. You just want that flavor spread out, even though the flavor is trying to tuck underneath the noodles. There we go. Like I said, it's not perfect. And then, oh yeah, I grabbed a spoon for this purpose. Gonna take about 1/3 of the ricotta mixture and just quickly spread that out. Now I know that everyone does lasagna differently. There are going to be those of you that watch this and think everything I'm doing is sacrilege. And you are totally entitled to your opinions. I'm just doing this really quickly. It is, like I've said, it's a gift. And I need to get this in the freezer. Okay, and then we get another layer. More of the meat sauce. These are wanting to curl on me. When I first thought of doing these, I thought, oh, well, this will probably, use, each casserole will be, or each little tin will be half a recipe. Yeah, right. That didn't work out, but that's okay. Luckily, the amount of meat sauce actually did end up being perfect to make 2 of these. It's just everything else ended up, I had to make a whole new batch of the cheese sauce and a whole nother bag of the mozzarella. Throw that on there. Okay, and I'm saving just a little bit extra for the top. And this is the last bit. Chunk all of this goodness in there. There we go. And the last of this cheese sauce. And I know people are probably going to come at me for making, or for putting the cheese sauce over the meat sauce. Nobody cares. It's going to taste the same. Put the rest of the mozzarella. And a handful of Parmesan. Now, what I'm going to do before I put this in the freezer is I'm going to take aluminum foil, cut it to this size, spray the bottom of it, and then place that on there. That way, when the family goes to cook it, they don't have to find their own aluminum foil. It'll already be on there, because when you go to cook any of these, you want to make sure that it's covered in aluminum foil, and then the last 10 to 15 minutes is where you take the foil off and let it get all bubbly and brown. So I'm going to be getting these covered and into the freezer, and I hope that y'all have a fabulous rest of your day. And remember that life is a journey, so let's make it joyful. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share this all around. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!